Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. But guess what, folks? I am still trying to get my show up on my pad. But beforehand, I want to tell you that we had some quite interesting occurrences today. We all know about the IG and what those guys in the great good old party are doing right now to try to pretty much disengage reality. Just like for those of you who followed the post that went that pretty much did pretty darn well at the Daily Kos on Sunday. We understand what's really going on here, folks. So anyhow, the one of the first things that I'm going to want to talk about is to remind folks that in several states today is election day. And I want to remind you guys that you must, especially if you're a progressive Democrat, you must get out there and vote because, my friends, we cannot later on, after it's all over, say, oh, why did we get the candidates that we wanted? When a lot of times the problem is we did not go out there and do our civic duty. Right now here in Kingwood, Texas, I've been getting some reports from some polling places. What they're saying is enough, while we have people voting, enough folks that we expected to vote are not voting. Folks, what are you doing? Go out there and vote now. You have until 7 p.m., folks. Please go out there and vote if you're in Arkansas, if you're in Texas, and a few other states that I can't quite remember. I know my posse will have the answers for me shortly. Folks, let us know what are all the places where we are going to be voting. What states are we voting in? This program is carried everywhere. So help us remind folks that they need to go out there and vote. Now, we all been talking, and I don't get into talking about the Russian situation or Stormy Daniels or anything like that because I think that is just some sort of a method to get us distracted from the issues that we really need to talk about. And by the way, it's not only the Republicans wanting to distract us from those issues. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to start calling Michael Rudnin my executive producer because he came up with the states: Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky, and Texas. And I have a good friend in Georgia who is running in, I think it's the 40th district for State Senator Tamara Shealy. So please, Tamara Johnson Shealy, go ahead if you're voting in the 40th district in Georgia. I want you guys to remember something. The same thing that the DCCC has been doing to several progressive candidates around the state. Indirectly, they are doing it in the state races as well. So anyhow, if you're in Georgia 40, remember who you should be supporting, in my humble opinion, is Tamara Johnson Shealy, senator in the 40th district. In the 40th, I think it's the 40th district, but correct me if I am wrong. Now, folks, today's subject is going to be, of course, Democrats must use the teachers' movement to build an army. I saw an article that really spoke to me. It was on Common Dreams, and that article became the blog of the week. That is what we're going to talk about for the blog of the week. But before we do so, I want to say, with the Trump shenanigans and the Russia shenanigans and all these other issues, I don't know what's happening out here, but I want to play a video that came across on our feed today. Actually, I was made aware of it by Melissa, one of our listeners, one of our activists here in town. And I want to play the video from this woman who went to vote, and this is what happened to her. Let's see if I can get here.
Republicans vote here signs only. I started to leave. I checked again online. It said I was in the right place. I came back. And apparently Democrats vote here as well. Not only that, but somehow I, a longtime Democrat, the last 42 years I have voted Democrat, I was changed in their system to be shown as Republican. I had to have it changed back. I think signs have now been put up, but this situation was in place from 7 a.m. until now 8:20. My name is
that is just one issue. I've been getting a few calls here and there that saying that some interesting things are happening at poll locations. I saw on Facebook earlier one particular person had to go to 5 different locations to find exactly where they had to vote. So, I mean, voting, being able to vote is one thing. Knowing where you have to vote, this primary, I think, is indicative of things that are going to happen back in November. Remember, this is a Democratic primary, and they're making it difficult in a Democratic primary to vote. Think about the difficulties in states like Texas, Kentucky, and these other states controlled by the Republican Party, what it's going to be like with the difficulty they're going to make voting in these states. And the reason they're going to do that is to suppress the vote, because they know the more people that are going to come out to vote will be voting against these guys. Finally, it seems like that is what's going to happen. Anyhow, the title of the show today is Democrats Must Use the Teachers Movement to Build an Army to Victory. Subtitle of the show today: If Democrats want to win, they should latch on and help teachers throughout the entire country. Now, teachers in the aggregate are a Democratic constituency, but they can become an army, millions strong, to become the catalyst for victory. If Democrats commit to teachers as never before, if they assure them they are not just a voting constituency, but one that Democrats will support full-throated by supporting pay and benefits commensurate with their worth, look, it will be the blue wave, the blue wave would become further more than a blue tsunami, because what many folks still don't realize is the power of teachers. With all the headwinds that teachers get from the right wing, with all the headwinds teachers get from those who are refusing to pay the right amount of taxes to ensure that they're paid their worth, they can make the difference. They can definitely make the difference. But before we get to the program also, I want to go to a newsfeed item that I blogged about today. And the reason that I want to go here is mostly because we know the tragedy that has occurred, or the tragedy that just occurred in Santa Fe, at the Santa Fe High School here in Texas. What was wonderful for me today is to see a front page, or not a front page, but a full page ad that was paid for a group called Everytown for Gun Safety, that really really scolded Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, but it did so in what I call the coffee party manner. In other words, they didn't throw blame. I mean, they did throw blame, but they weren't throwing bombs. So what I want to do is read that particular blog post from this morning, and it goes as follows. This is what needs to be done going forward against politicians who continue to keep our citizens, and specifically our children, on hostage. We must be honest. Where there is robust gun control, there are orders of magnitude less gun violence. The numbers do not lie. And I didn't give a link to the numbers because I was rushing this blog, but I'll probably re-edit the blog and give the actual numbers that people need to see. Using the Second Amendment as an excuse for not passing strict gun control laws is just that, an excuse. If it is another way to promote the NRA agenda, which is nothing more than the Advertising and Enforcement Division of the National Rifle Association. Now, Everytown for Gun Safety wrote a scorching article civilly attacking Texas Governor Greg Abbott for his inaction and inactions of politicians on the gun violence issue. The letter is one that could be sent almost verbatim, to every right-wing politician and self-serving politician who does not support strict gun control. Some pushback when we mention gun control. We always get some pushback when we mention gun control. They say the phrase creates a backlash. Look, folks, with America becoming a killing field by gun-wielding evil, mostly men, that is something we must do. We must do that. Anyway, here we go. I want to read this letter because this letter is pretty darn. I love the letter. Now the blog post needs some work. Like I said, I was in a hurry and I just kind of read it and saw, hey, there's a couple errors in that blog post that needs correcting. Okay, but here we go. Dear Governor Abbott, our job is to be good students. Your job is to keep us safe. You have failed at your job. Like so many politicians cozy with NRA, you have steadfastly opposed any reasonable measures that might protect us from gun violence. Instead, you've signed dangerous policies to force public colleges in Texas to allow guns on campus and make it legal to openly carry firearms in public. You've continued to push the notion that guns everywhere for everyone make us safer. By that logic, shouldn't we be among the safest states in the nation, given the number of guns that we have? In the past, you've tweeted that you were embarrassed that Texas was second in the nation in gun sales and that Texans needed to step up and buy more guns. Let me stop from that letter right there. That is the essence of the politicians who are always using the Second Amendment as, the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment we must protect because of the Constitution. This wasn't the Second Amendment this man was protecting. This man was not protecting a right. This guy was triggering a run on the purchase of guns. This guy was being the advertising agent for the gun industry. This guy was trying to get more guns into the hands of people, not that people that are saying, I want to exercise my Second Amendment rights. He was trying to just get people to buy guns. I wonder how much he got paid for telling Americans to go out there and buy more guns. But that's what he did. A few months later, you said that gun violence was happening because of hearts without God. Do you think that the children who were shot in class this week died because they hadn't prayed enough? What about the 26 who were killed while they were worshiping in Sutherland Springs? Where does God come in there? Did God put a shield around the church, or should God have put a shield around the church? Or should you, Mr. Governor, who God supposedly under your parlance of religion decided that you should be in control of this state, if you would believe what the crap many of you talk about, that you were ordained to be our governor and protect us? I think in the material world, assuming we follow the tenets of God as you do, it was your responsibility to keep those folks in the church safe, not for God to build a shield around the church, or for God to build a shield around the schools, or for God to build a shield around anything. It was your job. Your job and only your job, Governor, and you didn't do it. And good for this student to call you out. Darn good for this student to call you out. So, Texas, so as we continue with this, with about 26, do you think they are to blame rather than yourself and other politicians who refuse to allow even a meaningful discourse on reasonable gun violence prevention policies? I wish he had reminded the governor as well that Republicans prohibit the NISH to study gun violence in this country, to study the effects of guns on our society. They can't legally do it. That's how much the gun lobby has hold on us all. We were happy to hear you mention background checks and responsible gun storage when you spoke on Friday. But here's the thing. Words only matter if they're followed by action, and you have no track record of fighting for anyone other than whom? The NRA. Folks, if you're just joining us, please be sure to share this blog post, to share this show on your page, on your windows, on your Twitter, on your wall, on your Instagram, because this is how we are going to get a message that by all choices, they're leaving alone. The mainstream media forgets about it. You notice? 10 people got killed in our state. 24 people got killed, or 26 people got killed in a church. A few months ago, those several kids got killed in Florida. And how quickly we have been taught, how quickly we have been desensitized so that these things just happen. These are 10 families without kids, dead kids. They had to bury them. Young kids, 10 families. And how much are we talking about it today? Very, very little. Very little. So I figured after reading that letter, I was so happy to see it because in some extent, talking so much about the election, I think as well, politics done right's kind of been negligent in covering some of the gun issues that it should be covering. And henceforth, the double blog of the day, because again, this letter was just so consuming for me. But here's the thing. Words only matter if they're followed by action, and you have no track record of fighting for anyone other than the NRA. The majority of gun owners support laws that disarm domestic abusers or require a criminal background check on all gun sales. Do you? You probably don't. Not you probably don't. You don't. Folks, if you're just coming in, share this show on your wall, on your page, on Twitter, on Facebook, on everywhere. Why is our safety less important than the check you get from the NRA? We know that common sense gun laws make us safer. Since January 9, 2009, Texas has experienced at least 20 mass shootings. Let me repeat. Texas, since 2009, has experienced 20 mass shootings. Folks, there are 50 states in the union. Suppose everybody mimics Texas. Anyhow, more than any other state in the country. Do you think that a culture of guns everywhere and our lax gun laws might have something to do with that? Of course it does. Of course it does. Of course it does. You said that straying from Jesus is the cause of gun violence. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. Straying from God. If we would just accept God, the killings would stop. Really? Well, let this be your come to Jesus moment, she says. Children are dying. We're being shot and killed in our classrooms, our homes, our movie theaters, even as we walk home from school. We have become collateral damage in this country whose lawmakers refuse to stand up to people who just want to sell more guns, regardless of the body count. We are collateral damage, folks. But you know what? We are collateral damage because we choose to be collateral damage. We choose. We're willfully, we allowed ourselves to be willfully deceived by making these gun-toting, money-making, I won't say the word. We have allowed them to lie to us, and we have decided to accept their lies as truth and not force strict gun control laws in this country to ensure there are less guns, less killings. And that's all we really want. But no, we, the American citizenry, after these gun killings and after we are so fearful, we allow them to come in with great media and convince many that, oh, all you need is an armed teacher. All you need is a good guy with a gun. The only thing that can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Oh, really? How naive. And that's what many of us would choose. And notice I said, many of us will choose to believe that. You've said that straying from Jesus is a cause of gun violence. Well, let this be your come to Jesus moment. Children are dying. I read that already. But, folks, we appreciate your thoughts and prayer, Governor. But without policy change, this crisis will not end. And what we are asking for isn't unreasonable. In fact, most Texans, gun owners, and even NRA members support common sense gun laws. And folks like me support strict gun control laws. Anybody stating, well, the reason we must not allow them to take our guns, or we must have guns, is to prevent tyranny. That may have worked in the 1700s and part of the 1800s. But you can't, with a gun or an F-16, or not F-16, AK-47 or whatever these guns are, you can't fight against an F-16, an M1 tank, or any one of these guys. So to use an argument about, we are going to stop tyranny, are you crazy? And how does the average American citizen allow them to believe crap like that? How can we allow ourselves to believe we want to be able to have guns all over to prevent tyranny? Tyranny, you just have to bring out one division, bring them to Houston, Texas, and wipe the whole darn city out. Even if every Houstonian, every 4 million or 6 million or whatever the population is in the metro area, let's give each one of them a bazooka. All you need is a confounded F-16 to wipe everything out. So please, let's be frank here, folks. Don't buy into the little small-minded things that they make for what they hope are small-minded people. They've turned many people into small-minded people. Most Americans are intelligent, but we are so ready to accept info from our leadership, or those that we consider worthy of leadership, or those that we consider worthy of listening to, that we make bad choices. Our bad choices is for not to support good gun control. And it's going to be difficult going forward. And you know why it's going to be difficult going forward? Because some of the most potent gun holders are some of the most violent people, or some of the most people that if you try to come up with controls are then going to get violent, in which case we'll have to have some extractive measures to do so before we get before we get a steady state situation. Anyhow, so you've met with the NRA in the past, and just a few weeks ago, you spoke at the organization's annual meeting. We're talking to Greg Abbott here. Folks, if you're just joining us, please do remember to share this post, share this show either on your wall, your page, your Twitter, your Instagram, your Tumblr, everything, because that is how we are going to get the word out. So we'd like a chance to speak with you, Governor, to tell you how it feels to go to school every day, terrified that we won't come home, to ask you to be brave enough to stand up for public safety instead of pandering to the gun lobby, and work with Texans who frankly are very, very terrified, justifiably terrified. We are dying on your watch. What will you do about it? Now, powerful letter to the governor. Will the governor respond to that well-designed, powerful letter that told truth to power? Will the governor respond? If he doesn't respond, trust me, those of us, all of us in a progressive sphere with any sort of platform, we will respond. Before I go any further, I want to remind folks, I normally do this at the beginning of the show, but today I didn't because of the amount of material we had to cover. But I want to remind you guys that this is a progressive show, and all these progressive shows, to stay on top, to have our throughput out there, to get to people, to bring you this material, to be on the outside, to get the flights to DC, to get the flights to New York, to get the flights to LA, to get the flights to wherever we've even been in parts of the country you never heard of. We need your support. So I'd like to ask you to go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. If you are on our post right now, if you're watching this on Facebook Live, the link is directly right there in the post. You can click on it and go ahead and become a subscriber to Politics Done Right. Please, a coffee won't hurt you, I don't think. I think many times you've decided to give friends a coffee. Give Politics Done Right a coffee. Patreon.com/politicsdoneright. For you that are listening on Blog Talk Radio and other networks or podcasting this, the address is P as in person, A, T as in Tom, REON as in Nancy.com/Politics Done Right. That is patreon.com/Politics patreon.com/politics done right. Let's support progressive media. I don't ask you to do what I don't do myself. I'm a strong supporter of the dailycoast.com, opednews.com, democraticunderground.com, and likewise radio, my KPFT radio station, as well as coffeepartyusa.com, as well as many other small progressive outlets. And the reason why I do that, the reason why I ask you to be also a supporter of Politics Done Right, is because while the other side has the mega donors from the corporatocracy, we don't. We have you. So once again, I ask of you to let's be a part of the solution and be a part of Politics Done Right. Please do subscribe to Politics Done Right. Okay, continuing with the program, what we want to do now is talk about teachers, the most important profession in this country. And I had a job to do yesterday about I heard that Fareed Zakaria had just about honor teachers in his program, and I was supposed to watch it yesterday and forgot to do it. And it came up, teachers came up again today, and I said, I had to discuss it. I'll listen to the Fareed Zakaria, and if it's something else that we can make a full topic on, I'll bring that for you tomorrow or some other day in the week. But I want to tell you guys, teachers are the most important part of our society. They're the ones that move knowledge forward. One of the problems we have here is we have been taught to disrespect teachers. We've been taught via the Powell Manifesto that those sources of education, because when you're educated and you're learned, what happens is you think logically. And when one thinks logically, one thinks of solutions, not ideology, but solutions, right? There are certain things that are absolute, and there are certain things that have gray area. You can be a conservative, that gray area issues you differ from progressives. But there are certain absolutes here. And what liberals or what progressives always get right are those things that are absolute. What conservatives generally fail at is mixing ideology with fact. Now, here's what I'm trying to say. There are certain things that are gray area. You can be conservative about it, or you can be progressive about it. There's no right answer. But there are areas that are absolute. One absolute area is a teacher has more value than a stockbroker. What is absolute is a teacher has more value than a banker. Those are absolute statements not up for debate. Because teachers, educators, move knowledge forward, and educators are the ones who made the bankers or the stockbrokers or any of these professions anyway. But we have a society that claims to be a capitalist society. A capitalist society claims to say we allocate resources efficiently, the efficient allocation of resources. Well, I think the fact that we have demeaned teachers, the fact that we don't pay teachers their worth, is in effect a stance that tells us our economic model is a failure. But you know what time it is, folks?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
As I must confess, I didn't write today's blog post. Instead, today's blog post was written by Julia Conley, staff writer at Common Dreams, and I picked that up because it spoke volumes sort of to stuff that we have to do as well, and it goes as follows. As teacher revolt sweeps, the title of it is, As Teacher Revolt Sweeps Nation, Democrats Propose clawing back tax cut for 1% to fund $50 billion boost to schools. You remember yesterday what I told you? Democrats were talking about, their big push was going to be corruption. They were going to be talking about all the bad things that Trump represents. And my theory was, are you crazy? Let's talk to things that matter to people. Let's really, really talk about middle-class issues, things that affect everybody every day, so that when they go out there to vote, they know they're voting for something. When you say, we're voting against corruption, okay, so you get a whole lot of Democrats in there that are not corrupted, supposedly, and then a corporation comes out, and these the same corporations that funded the Republicans, funded Democrats. What do you think is going to be the results of the policies? Let's just recall a few years ago. The policies still get influence by those with power, and until we progressives teach people otherwise and show them that it works, which is what we're trying to do with the resistance and more, that's not going to happen. But back to teachers. On the heels of protests across the nation over low pay for teachers and states' prioritization of corporate tax cuts over in schools, Democratic lawmakers joined the national education leaders on Tuesday to unveil a proposal aimed at restoring the nation's school and boosting teacher pay by repealing Republican tax giveaways to the richest 1%. I want to back up. And the reason I want to back up is I want to remind everybody that during that, when they were discussing the Trump tax cut scam, they were talking about removing the benefits teachers have, which was a simple benefit. Teachers, a lot of times they go to classroom. My daughter was a teacher for 1 year before she started back, or before she went into medical school. Here's the deal. They wanted to take away the tax break, meaning the deductions that teachers could take for buying stuff for their classrooms or buying stuff for their kids. They were going to take that tax credit away, but somehow the millionaires and the billionaires were going to get that money that they were taking away from teachers. Think about that. It wasn't enough that they're barely paying the teachers a subsistence salary. They also wanted to take away one little perk that teachers have that really doesn't go to teachers. The teachers out of their hearts. The teachers out of what they want to do. That is right. They were giving their monies, their wealth to their students, to their schools, not being paid back by the state. And the government decided to say, well, you know, that isn't really money that's used by you. It's really an expense. You have to think about that as an expense. So therefore you can deduct it. The Republicans wanted to do it, and the fight went on. And eventually I think the Democrats, or rather the Republicans, had to cave on that. But here's the bigger factor that gets to me. Why is it today or yesterday that Democrats hooked up with teachers to decide we are going to get on a teachers program and start supporting teachers to the core and make sure that we are going to subsidize those evil states that refuse to pay a living wage to their teachers, where teachers have to have 1 and 2 and 3 jobs. Teachers are the profession that have more than one job to sustain themselves. Think about that. Lily Elskilson Garcia and Randy Weingarten. I know them both from both at Netroots. And by the way, Lily, the person who runs that, the largest teachers union, she has Panamanian roots. I know her entire family lives in my town, and we all know each other. Our parents work together, all that good stuff. It's kind of amazing to see that she comes over here and becomes the largest leader of a union, and she's from, parents are from my town. That was sort of, felt kind of good. Anyway, heads of the nation's largest teachers union joined Democratic leaders, including Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, on Capitol Hill to propose a $50 billion injection into schools and teacher salaries over the next 10 years. Look, $10 billion a year, or rather $5 billion a year, ain't enough. It's a good start. But we need a lot more money into education to pay these teachers what they're worth. A lot more. $50 billion a good start over 10 years. I mean, $5 billion a year. I mean, we can build an aircraft carrier about that, I think. Come on, we need to pay teachers 6 figures. I'm sorry. That's what they deserve. 6 figures. Now, we will take a bullet for our students, said Eskelsen Garcia, referring to school shootings, another recent issue the nation's teachers are grappling with as they fight for fair pay. There is nothing we leave on the table when it comes to fighting for our students, but we need the political forces that were elected to actually give us those school buildings, to give us the books and supplies that we need, to make it so we could actually raise our families on a modest teacher salary and not have to clock in on the weekends as a cashier or an Uber driver. We know that we can do better. And to my dear Eskelsen Garcia, listen to me. Teacher salary should not be referred to or defined as, how did she say, modest? Modest? If I told you a CEO made a modest income, you would say, why? That is how you should look at when you say somebody say a teacher should have a modest income. A teacher should have a good income. A teacher should have more than just a living wage. A teacher should have a great income. A teacher should have a great income so that he or she won't have to go home and think about how they're going to pay the next bill, but instead, how can I better arrange my curriculum to even make it better for my student? They don't need to be at a Pizza Hut working on Saturdays or late at night. They need to be grading papers and thinking, how can I best make my students better? That is what they should be doing with their free time. Not sitting back, busting their butt so that they're tired going back to school and not being able to give your student the appropriate care. Folks, let's be real. Anyway, continue with the blog. Support for teachers' protests dubbed the Red for Ed movement that have swept through West Virginia, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Arizona, and North Carolina since February has been bolstered by viral images of deteriorating textbooks and broken school chairs, as well as stories of teachers taking multiple jobs in order to make ends meet and paying hundreds of dollars out of pocket for school supplies, that is. Hundreds of dollars these teachers use of their own money. I know that because my daughter did it, and she was a first-year teacher. And she saw what her room looked like. She saw what her kids needed. And she went out there and spent her own money to get that classroom looking like a classroom we were used to a classroom we were used to when we had a government who cared about education. I'm going to continue reading, but I want to tell you why they don't care too much about education. They don't want an education, necessarily an educated American population. Because you know what? They want just enough educated people, and if they can't educate enough on the funds that they're willing to pay for, they don't mind passing that bill on to the foreign countries of the world. In other words, we let France and England and Panama and Costa Rica and all these places educate their kids very well. And if they want to come in here, you notice what Trump wanted to bring in? Oh, if they have a skill, bring them in. I'm not saying that having a skill being a factor in bringing you in isn't a thing. But I'm saying one of the lackings that we have in this country is not that we don't have enough engineers or whatever, is that we don't create enough engineers. We could if we wanted to. We don't. I'm coming to you next on the phone, my dear friends. I'm coming to you next. Let me just finish out this, and then you'll be next coming up. Rather, now you didn't push the one. Let's see. 614. You didn't push one to tell me if you want me to call on you or not. So if you want me to call on you, 614, please push the number 1 so that I can know that you want to be called on. Okay, let's go ahead and see. The tax cut that was afforded to the richest Americans amounts to $72 billion, according to the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, even more than what Democrats and teachers are demanding to use to improve the nation's education system. Yeah, you heard that? You heard that. Look, they gave away more in taxes than we are actually asking for the education system. No, take it all and put it all into education. No ifs and buts. With that revenue restored, Democrats' better deal for children and students would include a $50 billion fund for states to increase teacher compensation and to help school districts recruit qualified teachers and to improve school resources and infrastructure. The initiative would also improve Title I schools that serve low-income students, increase access to music, art, and computer science classes, and raise spending for special education classes. We already know the Republican tax bill was a scam for the rich, said Schumer on Tuesday. But it's not too late to undo its most egregious components and do some good for our teachers, our students, and our middle-class families. Democrats have also proposed repealing the Republican tax cut for the wealthy in order to fund infrastructure repairs throughout the country. Now, this article, again, is at Common Dreams, and it's very important. But I want to show folks what and by the way, I forgot to say that I am a donor of Common Dreams as well. But in reading this, to the bottom of every one of the Common Dreams article, they have, friends, help us fight. And I want to read this because we have the same problem with politics done right and elsewhere We have to be funded. And here's what this article under Common Dream, or rather, the comment on, not comment, but what Common Dreams is put in under each of their articles. They says, independent journalism has become the last firewall against government and corporate lies. Yet, with frightening regularity, independent media sources are losing funding, closing down, or being blacked out by Google and Facebook. Never before has independent media been more endangered. If you believe in common dreams, if you believe in people-powered independent media, please support us now and help us fight with truths against the lies that would smother our democracy. Please help keep common dreams alive and growing. Thank you, Craig Brown, co-founder of Common Dreams. So what I'm trying to tell you folks is all of us in the progressive media right now, we are out there asking progressives not for the kind of funding that we get from these, that the Koch brothers give, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We don't need that. We can work on the cheap. If I were to pull this camera and show you our setup here with 3 computers, 3 mixers, 3 computers, 3 mixers if we count that one there, 3 mixers, green screen, and all the others, yes, it costs. And to bring you this, we start out expecting, hoping that we would get the support from those who know the work that we're doing, from those who understand that we do this work, yes, out of necessity. We do this work out of the progressive necessity. If we don't do it, it all slides under, and it really does. Because the corporate media, they don't have an incentive for the true middle class, if you will. They don't. Because they have to sell the Viagra. They have to sell all these other things. They have to. So they can't be hard on the drug companies. They can't be hard on the hospitals. They can't be hard on the insurance companies. They can't be hard on all these other companies for which their funds come from. But the independent media can. And you know why? Because we only owe an allegiance to one sect in this country, and that is you, the people. And at the same time, what we do ask, however, is that the people, we need to have you support progressive media. We need to have your support. Those folks on the right, they are rabid. They go out there and they support it because they think it's existential. And I'm telling you, independent progressive media, your contributions, your subscriptions are existential for us. It is existential. Absent that, we crumble, we die, and we come that closer to the fascist state because we're pretty darn close. The only thing holding us up now is the resistance, and those of us who are able, with our platforms, to tell where the resistance is going, to bring folks into the resistance, to continue to tell folks exactly what we have to do to move forward. So anyhow, folks, this is a call-in show. The telephone number is 646-716-5812. The caller that I had previously hung up. Please call again. I think we found a way around some of the issues that's occurring at Blog Talk Radio. So we integrated Blog Talk Radio with Skype today, and with the expectation that it's all fine. So please give us a call, 646-716-5812. That number again is 646-716-5812. And I think it is time for me to really address my people. And who are my people? My listeners. And who are my listeners? Some of you are on Facebook Live, and I saw that you had some active conversations going on Facebook Live. So without further ado, I will try to get over to Facebook Live and also talk to whom? My people. And who are my people? You are. Folks, if you're just joining us, please do remember to share this program on your wall right now. Please remember to share this program on your Twitter right now. Please remember to share it on Tumblr. Please remember to share it on Instagram. Please remember to share it everywhere. And folks, I have another ask. Please go ahead and like Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies, the page on Facebook. Please like it. If you're coming in, like the page. Like the page. That is what we need to do. That's how we help get the message out. The more likes we have, the larger a percentage of this stuff that can go out. And also follow Egberto Willies on Twitter. Again, that is not hashtag, but that is my handle on Twitter is Egberto Willies. I send out a few tweets a day, some of them automatic, some of them insightful with things that I'm thinking of at that point in time. Very important. But most importantly as well, I need you to become subscribers. We need hundreds of subscribers, and we aren't there yet. So I ask you to really help us support progressive media. Now let's go ahead and start reading this. Michael Rudnan says, Greg Abbott has already changed his tune. Oh, really? I don't know what that means, and I can't pull that up right now. So you may want to tell us when you say he changed his tune exactly what you mean. Is it that they got to him or not? Meaning the NRA got to him or not? Michael Rudnan, I would have thought it'll be the teachers' strike reaching Texas that would have done it. You know what? The teachers' strike, we are kind of late for teachers' strike right now. What I'm hoping for is that in the summer they organize, and when it is time to open schools, what they do is they tell the folks right away, hey guys, you know what? It doesn't matter as far as school is concerned. We are not going to do it. We're not going to do it. You guys are going to have to continue. You guys are going to simply have to continue. Anyhow, folks, it looks to me like they're still having some problems at Blog Talk Radio. So that sound that you just heard, where you heard that ba-da-da-da, that was Skype saying, oh, we've just lost our connection to Blog Talk Radio. So, well, we'll skip. If you want to make a mention on anything, please go ahead and place it into the live feed. Okay, Russell Lyle says, too much echo effect, buddy. You mean when was the echo? I imagine that there was some echo when I played the video from the woman. I'll check that out when I do the blog post and see what we can do about that, Russell. Thank you for letting me know that. Michael Rudnan, Russell Lyle, yeah, that's just I just got back. Hey, Bruce just got back from voting. Bruce just got back from doing his civic duty. Folks, if you are in, and I know Michael Rudnan gave me all the places that were voting, and let me see if I can find that post that he made with all these places that's. Anyways, it's Texas, Arkansas, and I think Kentucky, and I'll get to the rest as I read through. Okay, Michael Rudnan, not too late to go out and vote today. Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky, and Texas. And as I mentioned to folks, personally, here in Texas, there are two races that are in the primaries that I was very concerned about, people going out there to vote. These are two very respected women here in the Northeast Houston area. The one's Merlin Burgess and Diane Trotman. For those of you that are in Harris County that are listening or who are listening, I decided that those were the two candidates that I'll be supporting. You may want to kind of read up a little bit about them and read up a little bit on their competition to see. But I think those are the two best candidates for the job in Texas. In Georgia 40, a good friend of mine, Tamara Johnson Shealy, is running for state senator. She kind of got the Democratic Party, the establishment part of the Democratic Party, got into the race. This woman ran that race 3 different times, and every time she gained 5+ points on it. And right now this is the year that she could make that turnover, because it was only 7 points away this time. And it was a doable 7 points, especially in a wave year. And what the Democratic Party did then is, after she built her base in that district, they decided to run another candidate. And you know what? I'm going to say this, and you guys really know me by now. I believe things like race is a construct, and I try to be non-racial most of the times, but the truth of the matter is race in this country still matters. In that race in the 40th, let me tell you what the Democratic Party did. And I'm going to tell you something. One of the reasons you see me don't try to make the Republican Party like a monolith of racists is because they're not. And I don't want to make the Democratic Party a monolith of virtuous, non-racist people, because it is not. Each party reflects the entire society, and all the problems that are within the society are there as well. And what they did with Tamara is she built a base, and every time she built a base, she kept on growing the party in that district. And when victory seemed to be at hand, this black woman that worked that district, she worked that district day in and day out. She went to Netroots 3 years in a row, and she worked with people to make herself into the type of candidate that the Democrats would want to have. And when it was time, when the district seemed like it could be won, they went ahead and they got another woman, a white woman. Nothing wrong there at all, if it was that she had not built the district. That is something that, again, affected this party. So what I'm trying to tell folks in Georgia 40, elect the best person for your district, and that best person is Tamara Johnson Shealy. Okay, let's go back. Russell Michael. Yeah, Michael, I know the rest of the show will be stellar. Oh, well, thank you, Michael. All right. Why are the Democrats making things difficult for their voters? These same voters will remember that in the general, and Democrats will lose out twice over. You know, I have been trying to figure that out as far as whether this polling places problem is a Democratic problem or a Republican problem, okay? And it seems to me, I am not going to say, for you guys know I don't talk what I don't know. But what I do know is that the signage, as was mentioned by the woman, wasn't there. And as such, it meant Democrats, a lot of Democrats would not have, would probably just get pissed off in that vote. Okay, Lucinda Delaney, Michael Rudnin, I doubt if Democrats are causing that interference. I doubt so too, Miss Delaney. But again, since I don't know all the facts, I can't really say specifically. I did talk about voter suppression earlier, but I was talking about it in general rather than the aggregate. Russell Lyle, today is the last day to vote in the Democratic Party runoff of Andrew David Morris for Texas HD 64. You hear that, guys? I don't know who he is or anything like that. Oh, this is the end of Politics Done Right. Please remember, to support Progressive Radio, go to patreon.com/Politics Done Right. patreon.com/Politics Done Right. And we will do this again. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And guess what? I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.